What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. How you doing today, Casino?
Pretty good. It's my favorite day of May. Everybody's always about May the 4th. Be with you. I'm more of a Sith, so
I've always said that about you. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith.
I'm
fifth.
I'm a Sith Lord and fifth, but it's great. So when do we ship off? Just curious.
We are actually shipping off right now.
Voyage?
The maiden voyage is run the
Boston?
ship of good times, having a good time, right? And I'm the captain of it. So, Casino, you're my first mate.
So dumb.
I just had this.
Yeah,
but
I've gotten rid of mine, by the way.
Those we use those for my bachelor party, and they're great hats, except mine does not fit my giant head, so it just has to sit on the top of it, which makes it look ridiculous. But that's what this show is. We're recording on Cinco de Mayo, Revenge of the 5th. It's going to be a great show, Casino. We're talking all NBA, NHL playoffs. Also, for those watching on the video, my wife now works from home, so I am not in the office. I'm at our kitchen table. Got this great clock right here.
The colors and the hat and everything, it was like a nautical theme, even though it's like not a nautical theme. It was kind of like one.
And this thing behind me says, gather here with grateful hearts. You know, just real basic white chick messaging. But that's what this podcast is all about.
Live, laugh, love.
Yeah. And you know what? That's the motto for this podcast. Live, laugh, love.
Live, laugh, love.
Fair enough. So we are since the last episode, we have to talk about the playoff games. There's been 6 games that have happened in the NHL, 4 games that have happened in the NBA, and really no NFL news. So for second episode in a row, not really any thing to talk about in the NFL. But before we get into the games, Casino, there was a pretty big news story in the NBA that I feel like we should talk about, that I wanted your thoughts on. Coach Bud, the coach for the Milwaukee Bucks, which led them to their first championship since the 1970s with Giannis a couple seasons ago, has officially been fired. So
He gone, everybody.
After that embarrassing loss in the first round of the playoffs against the Heat, thoughts on firing a championship-winning coach after a bad playoff performance?
If he had it back up against the wall for, at least a couple of games with Giannis being injured, but I struggle with this quick firing of coaches. I don't like it in any sport, especially if they are good at what they did. Like, he was a good coach. He won them a title. They were the 1 seed. Your players still have to perform. You can write up all the schemes you want. You can do all this stuff. I mean, I'm not a coach, so like trying to watch the game and see like, oh, this play was drawn up, this play, and this coach did a good job at countering, X, Y, Z as the game went on.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Adjustments and stuff.
Yeah, adjustments. I really didn't see. It's hard for me to tell if he was doing that or not. But he's got a great resume, and your team just didn't show up. The team didn't show up. I don't know what you can do as a coach if you could put your players in the right position and they don't win for you. What can you do?
Well, also, so the issue with him was obviously, especially we saw this a lot during the Heat series with the Bucks, was time management, use of timeouts. Like in the NBA, you obviously always save your timeouts for either crucial plays, or if the other team's just going on a ridiculous run, you use your timeout to kill momentum. So in the series clinching game against the Heat, he held on to like 3 of his timeouts going into, I believe it was the last game or second to last game when they went into OT. So it's like those little things you can obviously shine a spotlight on and be like, he was a liability in these key moments in a series that they ended up losing, right? But the issue is, they lost this series because, like you said, Giannis missed a couple games, right? He was injury prone,
you can't go to that. You can't go to that free throw line and shoot, and miss 14 free throws as the coach. Like, come on. So again, like,
that's exactly the point I was going to make, which is,
sorry.
What issue was coaching where your best player is scared to get fouled at the end of the game, so he's throwing the ball out of bounds? Like, what branch of coaching is that? Because to me, like you're saying, like, your best player in a key crucial moment didn't show up, and then you also had that best player absent or injured for 1 to 3 games in this series. Like, I don't see, again, if your team's at full staff, full health in this playoff series and you still lose, and the reason you lost is you can point to the timeouts, you can point to like bad clock management and all that kind of stuff, like, fair point to get fired. But 2 years removed from a championship, and you get beat by a team that does this all the time, which is Heat, where they underperform during the regular season.
And then Jimmy Buckets becomes Jimmy Buckets.
Yeah. In the playoffs, you have one of the most clutch MVP type performers in the postseason who does it to your team. Like, this isn't just, these aren't just, random things that happen. I don't know. But I agree with you. I didn't like when the Eagles got rid of Doug Peterson after 2 years later of, bringing the first championship to Philadelphia. I just think championships should warrant a little more leeway. And I don't know. And again, they were the number 1 seed. They were the best team during the regular season. And then I wouldn't even say they choked in the playoffs. They just got outplayed. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a series, and I'll get into a little bit in NHL where it's going back to the Boston series. Didn't touch on it much. I had an argument with my coworker about it. But coaching, like, a lot has to do with coaching. You have to be able to make adjustments in game. But, again, to my eye, I'm not being able to see that, but I'm sure this coach was making adjustments. I'm sure he wasn't just saying, all right, go out there and play. But that's my take on it. But you still got, when you're getting Giannis, you're drawing up plays to say, Giannis, drive down, get the fouls. He's getting the fouls. He's in the right places where he needs to be. He's just not succeeding in the free throws. He's not making the easy buckets. So the firing, I have trouble with it. Especially just in all sports lately, it's turned into this coaching carousel. NBA specifically, and I think also in the NFL, you don't do good half a year in, first year, whatever, you're gone. You're not giving them any time to get a program. I've always said in college football, watching that when, or basketball, mostly college football, you need to give them at least 3 years so they can do their recruiting, their system, get the right guys that they want in, completely change the mind of these players. And then from there, then you can fire them.
Yeah. Well, and then you also have.
Are you fine with it? Are you fine with that? The quick coaching carousel in almost all sports, or?
I think you have to. I think all coaching contracts and like owners and organizations should have to stick to this. I think minimum you can give a coach is 3 years, right? Because first year, you're kind of getting, like you said, getting your players in, kind of implementing your scheme, like kind of using the previous coach's assets and trying to fit them into the mold that you want your team to be, right?
Right.
Second year is like, all right, now I should have my players in here. I should have my schemes. You should do better than the first year. But if you don't, it's still like a transitional period. Then the third year, that's where it's like, all my guys are here. This is my scheme. I've built a foundation. Like, now it becomes a thing where it's like, this is my third year. If I don't win or show drastic improvements, then the fourth year is like, did I meet the expectations of what I was hired here to do? Then that's where it's like, you can maybe they should start doing it with like how the first round players in the draft get that like fifth year option kind of thing, where it's like you get the fourth year option, where it's like, okay, we went from 2 wins to 4 wins to 9 wins. And it's like, it's working, right? The progression. But then it's like, we were an 8-win team. Then we were an 8-win team. Now we're a 5-year team. Then it's like, or a 5-win team. Then it's like, okay, clearly the progression is not worked out. We're moving on, blah, blah, blah. But I just think there needs to be more, like you said, more stability, more longevity. And we've seen, I mean, how switching to football, how important was coaching? Look at the difference between the Denver Broncos, pre and post Russell Wilson. They only got better, but they had a bad coach and they were one of the worst teams in the league. Like, now all of a sudden, if Sean Payton comes in and they win 12 games, like, yeah, it was clearly the coaching. Like, I just think, well, and then to get back to Coach Bud for the Milwaukee Bucks, if I was him, I'm waiting to see where Wembanyama goes, right? Because he's supposed to be the next generational talent. You don't rush into getting hired, because I'm sure there's going to be, vacancies and availabilities. There always is. But yeah, wait till you see how the draft shakes out and then make your decision, because I'd much rather go to the Houston Rockets if they get Wembanyama than go to, the Oklahoma City Thunder when they get like the 10th pick in the draft. And you're like, what is this? But yeah. And from there, we can transition to talking about the first game in the NBA, which is featuring the team that basically made this coach lose his job, which is the Miami Heat facing the New York Knicks. And almost immediately after the episode was posted, where I said, I don't get why the Knicks want, or why everybody's saying that if Julius Randle comes back to the Knicks, they're going to be a better team. Almost an hour after that episode dropped, Casino, not only did he play, but he actually had a pretty damn good game. And I'm on the wrong game.
You're good.
There it is.
Good.
So Julius Randle played 38 minutes, had 25 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists. So he made me eat my words. I mean, Brunson is obviously still the star player and backbone of this team. He had 30 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists in 39 minutes. And then you also had RJ Barrett showing up with 24 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. However, now the series is tied 1-1. This game was without Jimmy Butler. This game ended on a 21-7 run by the Knicks at the end of the game to close it out in what was a tight game almost until the last, I think it was 6 minutes when the Knicks went on that run. So now, Casino, who in the NBA is one of the best closers in the playoffs and could have maybe assisted this Heat team in closing out the Knicks? So it's Steph Curry is probably one. Probably number 2 would be Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Buckets. Yeah. Like, I don't know how the fuck you watch this game. And again, I just might be a Knicks hater, but I really have in my lifetime, the Knicks have never been relevant. So I have no real opinion on the Knicks. Like, I don't hate them. I don't like them. They've just never been in my basketball life, basically. But
I get you.
Yeah, like they're just never in my peripherals, right? They've just never been a news or noteworthy
When I think of
team.
the New York Knicks, there's two things that I think of when I think of the New York Knicks. One is oh my gosh, why am I? Holy crap! It came to my head and then went away. The guy that's always there,
Spike Lee.
the director. Oh my gosh,
Spike
thank you.
Lee.
Goodness gracious, yes, Spike Lee
Yeah.
with his big old glasses. So that's
Yeah.
one, and then the other one is that old movie Like Mike, where it was the New York Knicks, and Bow Wow's doing his thing.
We're-
You know,
Yeah.
that's when I think of the New York Knicks, I don't think of them as being a awesome franchise. Like it's just, oh yeah, it's Mike Lee and Bow Wow. Woohoo! The New York
Yeah.
Knicks.
I
There you
think
have
of
it.
I
Yeah,
think of Spike Lee like at Madison Square Garden. That's like literally the only two things. There's
I don't even
not
think Madison Square Garden. I don't.
But if
When I
you
think, so
are
funny enough, when I think Madison Square Garden, half the time I think of that really bad Godzilla movie where the Godzilla was leaving eggs in Madison Square Garden. Yeah.
the
No, yeah,
Matthew
that's
Broderick
there it
Godzilla
is.
film. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
so
have weird
tomorrow
connections in my head.
so tomorrow the series tied 1-1 goes back to Miami. I don't know how, if you're not Miami, you're just oozing confidence that you can win this game without Jimmy Butler in this game, without your three best players playing in Madison Square Garden. This game was back and forth with everybody on the Knicks team who needed to go off, going off, having great games, and you were still in it with 6 to 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden the Knicks went on a run and closed you out. But you were without your best player that is returning, I'm pretty sure, for the next game. I don't think he'll sit out again. But and as of an hour ago, Jimmy Butler says he is going to return for game 3. So yeah, I would be shocked if in Miami for the next 2 games the Heat don't win by 10 plus points. Like I just think what is happening with this Heat team is really a testament to their culture and good coaching with Eric Spoelstra. But yeah, this just looks like a team playing really well together. And then when you get the conductor of, the tide that rises all ships is Jimmy Butler. He just makes everybody play better for reasons that are not understandable to anybody who watches basketball.
Because he's a likable guy. People want to play hard for him.
Yeah. And I just listened to this great, oh man, I wish I could remember the podcast, but it was this clip of his former teammate talking about when he was on the Timberwolves and he wanted to get traded, and they were having practice and he showed up late to practice. He had cut the Timberwolves logo off of every piece of his clothing. So he literally just was wearing clothes with the logo of the Timberwolves cut out. He told the coach he would beat all the first stringers with the third stringers. So the coach was like, okay, like bet, like do it. And then Jimmy Butler proceeded to beat all the first stringers with the third stringers, told the coach and all the starters they were garbage, left the building, and then was on ESPN an hour later doing an interview that was pre-recorded. He'd recorded it before he did this, talking about how he destroyed the Memphis starters with the third stringers, and that's why he was requesting to trade. Like, that's why I love him. That's why he's my favorite player. Just what a fucking dickhead move.
Yeah, pre-recorded is that's great.
Like, he was that confident he could beat the first stringers with just guys that weren't even going to make the team, that he pre-recorded him saying he did it. And then he did it. Like, that's baller move.
See, that's something that I've always respected with any athlete. I'm not big on athletes being like talking trash, this and that, and pump themselves up. I'm sure that that's to help them get through the game, stay motivated, fine. but you got to back it up. If you're going to be a complete douche, you got to back it up. And I love that move. That's such a baller move that you could back up. Because if you didn't back that up and that leaked, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my
Well,
gosh. Like just
also, if you
that would have
didn't
been
back
awful
that,
for him.
if he would have went out there and just got annihilated and then the interview got released, then it would have been like the players and coaches could have been like, no, he didn't. And then like all that kind of stuff. But the funny thing is he did it. And the coach and the players were like, we can't even dispute this. Like, which even makes the legend of Jimmy Butler just grow more and more, which also for my birthday, my wife knows Jimmy Butler is my favorite player, right? So she got me a Jimmy Butler jersey, but for the Heat, not for when he played for the Sixers. Obviously, my team is the Sixers. We'll talk about them in a minute. But the jersey looks so nice, and I love Jimmy Butler so much. I'm just going to keep it. I'm not even going to have her return it. I just like Jimmy Butler that much that, I mean, I'll never wear it in public because I'm not a Heat fan, but I'll wear it around the house. I'll wear it during Heat games as long as they're not playing the Sixers. That's how much I love Jimmy Butler. Now let's talk about Jimmy Butler's former team, my current team, Casino, the team that shocked the world by winning game 1 in Boston off playoff Harden. And then everybody on the Sixers woke up from that dream they had where James Harden actually showed up during the playoffs. And then they had what many people, including myself, thought this series would look like, which is, just James Harden playing 32 minutes, going 12 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. Maxey, the hero, the secondary, the Robin to Harden's Batman in game 1, he goes 13, 3 and 3 in 30 minutes. And then a returning Joel Embiid goes 15 points, 3 rebounds, 0 assists in 27 minutes. So, and then the Celtics, this is my concern about this game. So obviously the Celtics blew out the Sixers by almost 30 points, 40 points. The score was 121-87. My issue with this game is the Celtics didn't even play a good game. None of their stars showed up on either team. And the Celtics still won by 30 plus points. Tatum was 7.7 rebounds, 3 assists. Brown went for 25 points, and then Marcus Smart only went for 15. So how the fuck, if you're the Sixers, do you lose this game by, at certain points, it looked like it was going to be a 40-point blowout? How do you blow a 40-point blowout when none of the Celtics stars or players even play good? Like the highest scoring person was Brown with 25 and then Brogdon with 23. Everybody else, man, the highest was 15. Like, how does this happen, Casino?
No idea.
Ugh.
I mean, I wasn't watching that game. I had trivia at my place of work, so I really wasn't watching it. We actually didn't have it on, and I was all of a sudden I just like checked my phone, and I was blown away that the score was what it was. I was just like, oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
And the crazy thing is, and I'll tell you how they did it, is Celtics had more assists. The blocks, steals, turnovers, points in the paint are almost all even. Both teams were fouled 17 times. The Sixers actually shot more free throws. But in 2023, and this has been accurate for a long time in the NBA, it's whoever is hot that night from 3. So for 3-pointers, the Sixers were 6 for 30. And again, they just kept attempting 3-pointers because they were down so much, which I don't disagree with the strategy, but maybe if it's not your night, it's not your night. You try to beat them in the paint. Okay. But because again, you lost by 2 points in the paint, 34-36. But the Celtics from 3-point line, they were almost 40%. They were 20 for 51. And then they shot 12 more free throws and had a field goal percentage of almost 50%. So they were making half the shots they were shooting. Meanwhile, the Sixers were barely shooting 40%. So
yeah, in the NBA, like it's bad in college when a team doesn't, get above 40%, but when you're in the NBA and you're below 40%, that's bad. Like college ball, like you could get away with it sometimes.
yeah.
Both teams
Well,
are shitty. In college ball, typically, in my opinion, they live anywhere from 30 to 40%. Like some shoot a little bit more, but in NBA, under 40% is abysmal. If you are
well,
not shooting close to 50, is you have to. At least that's what
well,
I've noticed.
yeah. Well, not only that, but to shoot under 40% when you have 2 MVPs on your offense, like Joel Embiid kind of buried the lead of him winning his first MVP, one of 4 Sixers in NBA history to win MVP. Congrats to him, but it was announced the night before this game, and then he comes out here. We, as in people who watch basketball, fans of the Sixers, that his return game was going to be rough, right? So I don't even put this so much on him because he did miss a couple games. He's been out, a little rusty. You're playing in Boston, blah, 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 blah. All the excuses are there for him. There's no excuses here for Harden or for Maxey or even Tobias Harris. Like, I don't get what this team even was during this game. And like I said, the Celtics for 2 games in a row haven't even played good. Like, this wasn't a good Celtics game. So now this series goes back to, or it goes to, for the first time, Philadelphia for, I believe, on tonight and then Sunday are both Philadelphia games. So if the Sixers don't, I'm literally saying this right now, Casino, I'm calling my shot. If the Sixers don't win both these games, and I don't care if they're blowouts, I don't care if they're last second victories, if they scrape by, if they do not win both these games in Philadelphia, they are losing this series. I really feel that as a Sixers fan. This is not me reverse
Well, yeah, they would be
jinxing
down
or whatever.
3. They would be down 3-1, of course.
Yeah, well, I'm saying even if they only win one, I'm saying if they go back into Boston tied 2-2, I don't think they win this series. They need to win both these games to even have a shot of going to the next round. But as a Sixers fan, I want them to beat the Celtics because I hate the Celtics and they're my team, right? But
That's fair.
going into this series, I told you I didn't think the Sixers could beat the Celtics because I just think the Celtics are a better team. From a basketball fan's perspective, I also kind of want to see the Heat Celtics in an Eastern Conference final because of how dominant the Heat have been against the Celtics this season. Like, can you even imagine if the Celtics or the Sixers get to the NBA finals? It's like, yeah, obviously they were one of the top 5 best teams all year, right? If this Miami Heat team gets to the finals in the East after beating the Bucks and then after beating the Knicks and Celtics, like what would even be
even if it was the 76ers and not the Celtics, like even if it was that if they make the NBA finals, whichever road that may, however they get there, Sixers or the Celtics, after beating the Knicks, like that is everybody in Miami that's a basketball fan should get on their hands and knees and like, yes, hi Jimmy Butler, how's it going?
Oh, I mean, God, as a basketball fan, I obviously want my Sixers to go to the finals. I think they will? No, because I think game 1 was an outlier and not the rule, like the inconsistent, not the consistent of what Harden is in the playoffs. And I just think the Celtics are a better team. But when it comes to the Heat, like throw your hands up. I don't know what to make of that team. I don't know what they are, and they just keep winning. And then even when they're playing all these free agents they signed, they're going shot for shot. There's guys you've never heard of hitting contested threes in Madison Square Garden against a full health.
And as I said like a little earlier was, I think Jimmy Butler makes players better because he is a positive influence. He's not trying to yes, he is the guy and he's trying to be the guy in quotations, but he's not. He's such a team guy. He wants to win. And I think the rest of that team feeds off of him as like, hey, he believes in us. He's not just saying like, hey, hit the shot or else. Like it's hey.
Well,
I'm
also
hit the shot because
if we're going to talk
Jimmy
about,
Butler said I can.
If we're going to talk about good coaching, maybe the best coach left in the playoffs is Eric Spoelstra, and he clearly outcoached Coach Bud in the first round, outcoached him so much that the Bucks organization was like, we need to fire this guy because of how much he just got outcoached. And then he is, I think he would outcoach. He's outcoaching the Knicks right now because they're going toe-to-toe with third stringers. And then I think he would outcoach Doc Rivers, who I have no faith in, especially in the playoffs, because he's the coach with the most blown 3-1 leads, which is all coaching. Like that does not happen with a good coach. So I've never been a fan of
it's funny that it's just funny that you say that because my coworker who doesn't care about the NBA at all. It's not that he doesn't like basketball. He just doesn't follow it at all. And he looked up and he goes, no, that Doc Rivers, that coach is still coaching? And I was like, yeah.
Well, I mean, we can get on this tangent in a future episode, but he won one championship.
We're already short on time.
Yeah, he won one championship with a 2008 super team and then never has gotten close again, even with said super team. Like I don't know. He also just does shit in a game where you're like, why are you doing this? I don't know. I'd take him over Bruce Brown, who used to be the Sixers coach, but not many others. Now, Casino, let's move on to what we had not one but two games since we last recorded, which was the Lakers and Golden State, both first round games taking place in the Golden State Arena. The game one, we had the Lakers beat the Warriors 117-112 by just an absolutely dominant Anthony Davis game. He played 44 minutes, 30 points, 23 rebounds. Yeah. 23 rebounds and 5 assists.
So he's playing like everybody expected him to play when they pulled him over into LA. He's finally doing that. And that's why I really think that, in my opinion, I'm calling this is my shot. Obviously, Celtics a little biased, but I still think they're a great team. I'm saying Celtics, Lakers. It's going back to the old days. I'm rooting for that. I want to see Celtics, Lakers, even though I can't stand LeBron. I don't really care about Anthony Davis. But I'm glad he's playing good for them right now. Like he's, actually doing what they hired him to do. But yeah, no, monster game. I watched every bit of that game. Again, Lakers fans just come out of the woodworks apparently in this town, and they just showed up at my bar, and it was just like, oh, hi. Yeah, upstairs. I got stuff going on down here. Had a little event going down there. I was like, back room. Got the sound on for you. It's on the big TV, and you just hear, yeah, oh, yeah. And it's like, all right. Lakers
I will tell you.
Fun. And then as soon as the game was over, it was poof. 5 minutes, they were all closed out, gone. And it was like, okay, all right, go back to your holes. Enjoy.
I will say in this town, because we obviously record where we live, which is in Vegas, a lot, and I mean a lot of Lakers fans, but also a lot of Warriors fans. I have a real good mix of both, and you see a lot of Warriors paraphernalia
that you've never seen before until they started winning titles.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's with any sport. How many Patriots fans do you know who don't know anything about the Patriots before 2001? Like, probably a lot.
Yeah, I was one of them because I was 10 years old. So
yeah. I
knew I liked them, but I didn't know shit about them.
Patriots poser.
Definitely not a Patriots poser. I knew they were my team. I just didn't know anything about them.
Yeah. But getting back to Lakers Warriors, so this game, LeBron had a pretty average game, especially if you're LeBron James. He had 22 and 11, and we're obviously talking about game one. But the Warriors, Looney also showed up with 23 rebounds, 10 points, 5 assists. So he matched Davis in terms of rebounds, which we'll get to game two where Draymond Green shut him down. But as far as game one, Steph Curry had 27 points. Klay Thompson had 25. Poole had 21. But it was all defense from the Lakers. They were just able to shut down the Golden State Warriors, and they had an off night shooting. They were 21 for 53, which sounds like a lot, but just think they're missing, what is that, 32 3-pointers, and with Anthony Davis getting 23 rebounds, most of those, from what I remember watching, was defensive rebounds. So they're taking the ball away from Golden State and bringing it back down the floor. Also, what was it? Oh, the points in the paint. I mean, the Lakers absolutely dominated in the paint, 54 to only 28 from the Warriors. The Lakers also had 10 blocks, with the Golden State Warriors only having 3. But yeah, defensive rebounds, of the 53 the Lakers had, 40 of them were defensive rebounds.
Yeah,
so
that's anything.
You're not going to win that game when you are bricking or missing 32 3-pointers. And of those 33, 30 of them the Lakers are getting back because they're just murdering you on the boards, even though you both had 23 rebounds. But yeah, I mean, just a great defensive performance, especially in the paint. And then Anthony Davis proving that this isn't the issues with the Lakers have been, and why they won the 2020 NBA championship, is this is Anthony Davis's team with the best player on it, right? People with the best player on it being LeBron James. The best player, maybe debatably in NBA history, is on your team, but the player at his peak right now is Anthony Davis. So a lot of people have been saying, a lot of people have been saying this is not similar to play style, but similar personnel-wise to when the Lakers had Magic Johnson, but their all-star was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and it was one of those things where, you have the new, younger guy who's clearly the better player, but then you have the best player on your team is the older guy who's kind of lost a step, maybe can't take over games as much as he used to. So the younger guy and the older guy kind of have to build each other up, right, to get to where they need to go. And so that's why, since the NBA championship year for the Lakers, which was 2020, in these 3 years, it's been LeBron James continually and emphatically kind of trying to hand the reins over to Anthony Davis. The only issue is, now let's segue into game two. Anthony Davis is maybe the least consistent superstar in the NBA because he has that monster performance, right? 100% the reason they won, both defensively, offensively, he destroyed Golden State. So then Golden State has Steve Kerr, has Steph Curry, has Klay Thompson, has, most importantly, Draymond Green in the paint. They make these adjustments. They come out game two and they hold They hold Anthony Davis in 33 minutes to 11 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, that's the adjustments that Golden State always manages how to make is why they're a dynasty. And Draymond Green, this was the Draymond Green game, because you look at his stats and it's 11 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists. So he almost had a triple-double, but what he did defensively was like some of the best NBA defense you're ever going to see. I watched this game once last night, and then I watched the last 2 quarters of it this morning again. And Draymond Green, the stuff he was doing on the perimeter, and then he was still shutting Anthony Davis down under the rim was masterful. Like, this is why he's still on a team. This is one of those games where if he's not with Golden State, next year he's going to be with probably another contender, because they're going to be like, look what he can do in the playoffs if we get there, right? He can be our best defensive player and then still almost get a triple-double. But also last night was the Klay Thompson game. He had 30 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. And then Steph Curry, 24 and 12. The 12 was assists. So the Lakers almost doubled Curry, I want to say the entire game. It always looked like, even on fast breaks, he would have 2 guys stopping him at the 3-point line. They would try to set a screen for him, but you can't do a screen against 2 defenders. So he would have to dish the rock pretty much every time. But yeah, great Steph Curry game in terms of what else he can do, which is assist and get other folks wide open. And again, I think the Warriors win this series because if you're going to double Steph Curry, you're going to have a great Jordan Poole game. You're going to have a great Klay Thompson game. You're going to have a great Draymond Green game. So 2 of those are going to be offensive. 1 is going to be defensive. And then when you let up, that's when you have the Steph Curry game. So I feel like in this series, we've already had the Anthony Davis game. Will we have another one? Maybe, but still that's 2. Then you're going to have the LeBron James game, right? So that's 3. Could we have another one from him? Maybe. So on the Lakers side of it, you've already had the Anthony Davis game. So in the next, they just played 2 games. So in the next 5 games, you need to have another Anthony Davis game and 2 LeBron James games. Is that possible? Yeah, probably. But logistics and logically, do you think those are more likely, or do you think it's more likely to have a Steph Curry game, a Klay Thompson game, a Jordan Poole Steph Curry game, a Jordan Poole Klay Thompson game? Like, there's too many variables on the Golden State Warriors side where it's like, you're on mute, Casino.
Yeah, pairs. Yeah, like we're you're right. There's too many variables. There's I think it's going to be tough for them. Anthony Davis is going to have to be good all series. Just going to have to be. He's going to have to find a way.
And since 2020, he's really never shown in the playoffs or in the regular season that he can string together consistent games, right?
The
end of this
full
season,
series.
Yeah, he went on a tear for like 10 games and you're like, oh my God, Anthony Davis is back. And then he came into the playoffs, and this is like one of the first great games he's had in the playoffs. They've already played in a play-in game where he did nothing. They had a first-round matchup where most of those games he did nothing. Like, I don't know. I just think this is who Anthony Davis is. If you're in a 7-game series, you can count on him to maybe have 1 great game and 2 good games. Well, I don't think that's going to be enough to get it done against the Warriors, especially with, last note on this is LeBron James, when he plays the Golden State Warriors, there's clearly a rivalry with Steph Curry, right? Like, they've had this rivalry their entire life. The entire ESPN broadcast of this game is literally LeBron versus Steph, and they do the whole montage and the different photos and videos of these 2 versing each other, right? So that has somehow seeped into the mind of LeBron James in the form of, well, everybody thinks Steph Curry's a better 3-point shooter than me, so that means this series is me just nonstop jacking up 3 points or 3-point shots. But LeBron James has never been a good, I wouldn't even say he's never been a great, I wouldn't even say he's been a good 3-point shooter. Yeah. So now when he is past his prime, right? He's still a great player, but definitely past his prime. He still can drive down the lane, go through 3 guys, and do a layup and get fouled, right? That's the 3-point game that LeBron needs to have.
Stick to your bread and butter.
Yeah, But
You're
now,
big, you're a physical guy. They're going to foul you.
and we saw it at the end of the first game when this game was tied. He's
Nobody's going
going
to be
up to the
better than
lane.
Steph Curry. Is going to go down as the greatest 3-point shooter of all time by the end of his career.
He probably already is.
He probably
already is going down as the best one. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but for any debate purposes, by the end of his career, there's going to be no debate.
Yeah. No, I agree. But in this game, it was like at one point, I think if I remember right, I can't pull it up here, but if I remember right, LeBron James was like 1 for 8 from 3 points. And it's just like, whenever he plays the Warriors, you always notice he just pulls up at 3 and they kind of let him take the shot because odds are he's going to be a 10% 3-point shooter. Like, he has hit and he can hit very clutch threes. But when it's like the second quarter in the game's tied.
It's funny you say that because I was going to say the majority of the time, though, he always dishes it for that last second 3. He doesn't want to take them. He knows he's not the best 3-point shooter. And that's something that I have an issue with LeBron is why can't you just be good at what you do and let somebody else be the master at something? Like, you got to be the best at everything. I mean, sure, that's your mindset. Sure, warrior mentality, trying to be the best of the best of the best, but it's not going to always happen that way, man. Like, put your team in front of you, do what you do best, and you let the other people do the threes.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
Russell's been having, every time I look up and there's a 3-point shot by LA, it's Russell shooting a 3 and it's making it.
Yeah. Well, and Reeves is a better 3-point shooter. D'Angelo Russell's a better 3-point shooter. But last night, like we were talking about in the last couple games we talked about, some nights you have it, some nights you don't. Last night, the Lakers 10 of 34 from 3-point. That's 29%. Juxtaposed to the Warriors, 21 for 52 or 21 for 42. They were at 50% from 3-point. So when you have a 20% disparity in 3-point shooting percentage, like, there's no way you're going to win that game. And this game, the ironic thing was this game was really close in the first quarter and halfway through the second quarter. And then something happened in the second quarter where the Warriors went on like a 10-point run. And then it was like the third period, they're up by 20. Fourth period, they're up by 30. And then all of a sudden there's 8 minutes left in the game and both teams have pulled all their starters. And then it's just like you're watching players you've never seen before playing in a Lakers-Warriors playoff game. Like, this game was over almost with a full 10 minutes left in the fourth. Like, do I think this happens again? I don't think the Warriors blow them out, especially in LA, but I really do think this series ends 4-2 Warriors. I just don't see how the Lakers can keep up offensively. Defensively, I think they're great, but I don't think they can stop or put up enough points to beat the Golden State Warriors. So at the moment, Casino, I think it's really going to be Celtics Heat in the Eastern Conference and then Warriors Nuggets in the Western Conference. So if the NBA playoffs are Nuggets Heat, like, who the fuck would have saw that coming? Definitely Nuggets, but Heat, no way. All right.
Do you if it was Nuggets Heat, do you think that the finals would have more views or less views?
Oh my God, way less. I mean, if you like,
but wouldn't you think some people, hey, something new, let's check it out? Or you'd be like, NBA fans are just like salty. My team's not it. Fuck it.
No, I think it's even simpler than that. So the possible matchups right now in the finals would either be a New York team, a Philadelphia team, a Boston team, the Los Angeles team, the Golden State Warriors, or it would be either the Phoenix Suns or the Denver Nuggets. So of the New York team, the Boston, the Philadelphia, the Los Angeles team, if all of those markets had a shot and it ended up being Denver and Miami, like, the NBA would have to be like, fuck. We could have had, like you're saying, we could have fucking had Lakers Celtics. Instead, we get fucking Denver Miami. Like, Ugh. And I think the Miami Heat have fans, but when it comes to Denver, I don't think Denver's the number 1 seed. They are 2-0 in the playoffs. They're the least talked about team left in the playoffs. And they're probably the best. No one gives a single fuck about the Nuggets. I know because I'm an NBA fan. I don't give a single fuck about the Nuggets.
Hey, and to touch onto that, the Jokic did not win the MVP. Your man, Joel Embiid, won the MVP.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you can't even say, you can say 2-time MVP, but you can't say reigning MVP. So right. I think basketball fans obviously love Jokic. I don't think basketball fans really give a fuck about the Nuggets because it's the Nugget. Like, who gives a shit about the Nuggets?
I like chicken nuggets.
I mean, if it was the Denver chicken nuggets, they would probably get better coverage. But all right, Casino. I've ranted long enough about the NBA.
Oh yeah.
Now let's dive over to the NHL. You're giving me
20 minutes tops on my NHL.
Which for the NHL, I actually did watch all these games. I recorded them and I watched every single one of them. Yes.
Well done. Even if it wasn't like full attention span. Proud of you.
Yeah.
So it started off. Let's just move over to that super hot team that did end up beating Boston. The first series, so hot right now. The first series of round 2, you had on Tuesday night. Sorry, I have all my notes written down, but also backup notes pulled up. Panthers versus the Maple Leafs. And everybody's like, oh, it's been 19 years since the Maple Leafs got out of the first round. Well, they finally did it. Guess what? I don't see them winning this series. Oh, you want to know why? It's because they're down 2-0 in this series against the just wily Florida Panthers. So watching this series, like with hockey, how teams always get streaky, but in hockey, it can really be momentum, and in hockey is just something on a different level. Like you have it in basketball and football, and like momentum swings. In hockey, it is clear as day. Like you kill a penalty, you go, all right, I expect the next 10 minutes, we're just going to be heavy on the forecheck, shooting opportunities. That's what's going to happen. And the Panthers are just rolling.
I will
absolutely rolling.
I just said I watched all these games. Both Maple Leaf Panthers games I watched compared to all the other games, the Panthers just look like the best team left in these playoffs. And that's the question I want to ask you, Casino. Is the Panthers, have they emerged as the best team in these playoffs?
No.
Who do you think is the best team
left? My opinion, the 3 best teams are the Hurricanes, the Knights, and the Oilers, and I will get into why as I do this. Panthers, they're doing great. No, I like what they're doing. I want to see more. I just don't know if they can sustain against the Hurricanes. Hurricanes are absolutely, they got game 2 tonight, but we'll get into that game. So game 1, Panthers, Toronto, Maple Leafs. I'm cheering for the Florida Panthers. I can't believe I'm cheering for a Florida team. I mean, I am cheering for the Heat. Go Heat. But
why are you going against my Maple Leafs, Casino? Oh, that's right. Notice the color of my shirt. Go on.
Why? Just because I love the misery. Again, I love the misery of the Maple Leafs not winning a cup since 1967. And I really just want to continue to see this happen. I mean, they got out of the first round after 19 years. They may have a shot, but no, the Florida Panthers are crushing it. Matthew Tkachuk, he had 3 assists in 20 minutes worth of ice time. He wasn't out there scoring goals, but he had a lot of ice time. He's making the assists. He's drawing up the plays. Bennett, Cousins, and Verhaeghe, they are the ones that scored, as well as one of their defensemen, Montour. But the 2 players that you want to see, Alexander Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk, those are, in my opinion, 2 of the best players on the team for why am I playing Florida Panthers? Oh, and Sam Reinhart was good, but he didn't have a good game that game. But they had 5 assists between Barkev and Matthew Tkachuk. So I like what they're doing. They're passing it. They're fast. But in my opinion, the big story of this Panthers team is their goalie in Brovsky. Just phenomenal. He had a good game in game 1. Game 2, and I get into it here in a minute, absolutely insane. You need more from Austin Matthews on Toronto. They just look like they're not being able to adjust from what I've seen in the first 2 games against the Florida Panthers. They're not changing their style. They're not adjusting. They're not trying to get better chances. Yes, like I said, they're stopping Austin Matthews, who was the leading scorer in the league a couple of years ago. They only left him he only had 1 assist in 24 minutes worth of ice time, which is a shit ton. He had 6 shots, but the sad story was Mitch Marner, 25 minutes of ice time, only 1 shot on goal. Need more production from here. And then Nylander had 7 shots in 19 minutes of ice time. So they're getting some shots. They're putting a lot of shots on. They had 36 shots in that first game against Bobrovsky, and they only got 2 by him. The goalie is, at least in this series, is the standing point of the team, of the Florida Panthers. Because Samsonov, the Toronto goalie, he did fine. He stopped he didn't really actually do that great. He was 28 shots, and he let 20 and he saved 24 of them. Need to be a little bit better, especially if you want to get past a team that just beat the Boston Bruins. In, like I said, 3 of those games that they won were in Boston and OT, and they just found ways to win. You need to be better at goal. You need to have a game. You need to win, especially now, doing both of these in Toronto. In Toronto, you have to win. You just have to win 2 on the road.
You have to win so ESPN can show the misery to casinos so he can jerk off later to it. That's why they need to win. In Toronto.
No, they already won 2 in Toronto. The Panthers won 2 in Toronto. I'm saying now they're going back to Florida. I'm saying Toronto has to win 2 now in Florida if they want even a shot. So Samsonov,
you've already jerked off to them losing 2.
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic. The wife went to bed. There was a group of, it looked like a family. It was like a grandma, a dad, and like 2 kids. It was like a 3-generational thing that they showed up there, and you just see the grandma go, well, I could read her lips, just like, that's all she said was, well.
And you remember it so vividly because that's what made you come.
Yeah, it was her going, well, but 100%. No, but I loved it because obviously she's the oldest. She's dealt with this misery for many moons. And all the younger generations are just trying to be as hopeful as they can. And she just looks down at everybody because she was sitting in the row behind him and just goes, well, and I was just like, oh, this is fantastic. So that was after game 2 when Bobrovsky just stood on his head. So if I'll just get into that. So we'll just jump into that game. So game 2 against them in this series, absolute thriller. I had Thursday night off. All I was doing, I just sat on the couch. I was watching hockey. I made dinner and I did all the fun stuff. But Maple Leafs, they looked like the better team. They were the better team in this game. They won 68.5% of their faceoffs, 68.5% of the faceoffs, which is a large margin. Very brutal game. It was 48 hits to 42 hits. Like this, in the first round, it was the Knights. And why am I blanking? Who do they just beat? The Jets. The Jets. Another Canadian team. That was the most physical round 1 series when you chalk it up to hits, and not cheap hits, because there was cheaper hits in other series, but the most hits and the most physical game was that series. Well, the Panthers Maple Leafs is just an absolute buster of just hits. They're just constantly beating the shit out of each other. And Maple Leafs, they only had 1 penalty against them, and Panthers had 3. So the Maple Leafs had chances. They had power plays to score, but Bobrovsky went 37 saves. He led in 2, but the saves that he was making was just outrageous, just top tier. He's stolen that game. And I was watching watching it and listening to the announcers talking about it as all the players were going by, and like, patting their goalie in the head, saying, good job, good job. Like the excitement that they were having, like they're not just going up, like tapping his head, like, hey, good game. We won. Awesome. Where we did it as a team. They're like shaking him and like smacking his head around like concussion protocol style. On like, dude, you just won us this game. You stole us this game. He looked absolutely, absolutely fantastic. Samsonovi, he didn't have the greatest game again. So I'm wondering if they're going to do another, because he let in 3 on 29 shots. I'm going to wonder if they're going to be switching that up a little bit. Again, I need to see more from Marner. I need to see more from Austin Matthews. They are shutting them down. They each had, both of those guys and Nylander, the 3 that I talked about in the first game, they each had 6 shots. Marner had almost 25 minutes. Matthews had over 25 minutes worth of ice time. So they're playing top lines heavy, and they're still not getting the production that they need. So is it worry time in Toronto? I think so. I think Toronto's done. I think they're done.
So
I would be shocked if they won 2. I could see them winning 1 on the road, but a 3-1 series. I mean, hey, you saw it in Boston. The Panthers, it could happen then. The Maple Leafs could come back and win. Now, the Maple Leafs did actually do that to the Lightning, so we'll see how that goes. But I just like the fight of the Panthers over the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. The Toronto Maple Leafs doesn't look like they've adjusted anyway in the first 2 games on to be able to stop this team. And I really wonder if it's just Bobrovsky playing out of his mind. But I really don't think that's the case. Tkachuk had a goal. Barkov, he had an assist. Barkov had the goal. So their top players are producing, and the top players for Maple Leafs are not. So I'm worried for them.
But you think, regardless of who advances through this, you think either if the Panthers or Maple Leafs played the Hurricanes in the next round, you think the Hurricanes kill them? You think sweep or?
I wouldn't say sweep. No, I wouldn't say sweep. I wouldn't say sweep, but I have the Canes coming out of the East. I've had the Canes to win the Stanley Cup this year. I like their team. They're deep. They're fast. I like what I'm seeing from them. That's where I'm at with them. Let's move on to the next series. Let's get over a little bit into what was going on Wednesday night. I'll finish Tuesday. We still had a great series between Seattle and Dallas. That one was fun. Went into OT. It was high scoring. It was 5-4. Seattle ended up winning. The shots on goal for Seattle. This is why I told people I'm scared of them. They are a high-scoring offense. They shoot a lot of goals, or shoot a lot of pucks. They had 44 on-target shots on goal. So just imagine how many more shots they had. They probably had roughly around 65 shots, just, that got blocked or something like that, because they did not block a lot of shots. Dallas, if I saw the score right here, their blocks 21. No, Dallas actually had a decent amount. But Seattle looked fast. This series I could see it going up to 7.
Like you were talking about, the Kraken had 47 shots to Dallas only 19. Jesus.
In game 1?
Yes.
No, it was 44 shots on goal versus 35 shots on goal.
That was game 2. Game 2. Yeah.
But
all right, keep going.
Anyway, Seattle went into overtime. It was big in the overtime. They had more shots. They had 10. 10 to Dallas's 4. And really, Dallas didn't have an answer besides Joe Pavelski. I can't stand him. He played with the Sharks for years. So that year that the Knights lost, and they lost to the Sharks in that first round, where it was the 5-minute major, ended up scoring 4 goals on 4 shots. Marc-Andre Fleury, I don't care what kind of goal you are, what kind of penalty is, major or not, you can't let 4 goals on 4 shots. You just can't. So that was PTSD from back in the day. But Joe Pavelski, Mr. Glassjaw, who got knocked down the first round and ended up coming back for this series, put up 4 goals in that game 1. He was the best player. Nobody could touch him. Max Domi, he had 3 assists, so he was up there in that line with Pavelski doing what he needed to do. But Joe Pavelski, 4 goals, fantastic game for him, especially coming back off of injury. But Seattle's fast. Seattle's, and there really wasn't too many penalties. Seattle had 3 power plays. Dallas had 2 power plays. In playoff hockey, that's about right around average. But Seattle looked fast, high shooting, high scoring. And then they had a game 2. Moving on. They did have game 2 last night. I watched some of this. I was kind of also hanging out with the family at that point. But you're right. So Dallas ended up winning this game, and Dallas had 37 shots on goal, and Seattle had 27. So they had more shots going for them. They looked like the better team. They answered really well. Pete DeBoer, their coach, really did a good job at making adjustments, line changes, stuff like that. So I'm excited for this series because I know what Seattle can do, and that's why they've always scared me. If the Knights can get past the Oilers, this is who they would end up playing. So we'll see there. I got like 5 minutes. I got to wrap this up because you talk forever on NBA.
That's true.
So the Jersey's Hurricanes ended up 5-1. What else do you want to do? They pulled the Devils pulled their goal. They pulled Schmidt, Akina Schmidt, and then they put in who let in 3 goals on 11 shots, and they put in Vanek. I can never say his name. Vanek. Yeah, that guy. But they started their backup, and they ended up putting in the guy that's had the better record for the season. And he only let in 1 on 11 shots. I don't think that would have changed the tides at all. Low scoring or low, low shots on goal for the series or for that game, just for both teams. That game or that series, I'm not really too worried about. I think the Devils have a good chance to lose in 5-6 for sure. But moving on to the Golden Knights with 4 minutes to go. This was a fun fucking game.
Yeah.
Again, not being because I'm a Knights fan. This was one of the matchups I wanted, like everybody wanted, because it ended 1-2 in the regular season in the West. Everybody wanted to see this happen. And boy, was it a good game. And it was exactly what you expected. It was the power play with their best player. Yes, Connor McDavid is the best player in the league, but Draisaitl is playing the best in the latter half of the season and in the playoffs by far. And he had it was like almost a mirror image of the Seattle game, the first Seattle game with Dallas, where Draisaitl had all 4 of their goals. Draisaitl just played absolutely out of his mind. He had 2 goals on the power play, and they got a power play with like a minute to go in, like a minute into the game. They got a power play. Oilers did. And I just was like, put my head down. I was like, well, shit, here we go. I'd be shocked if they don't hit this. Of course, what do? They score. So the Oilers are still continuing this massive power play percentage going into this series, going into our series now against them. But what I really liked about Vegas is why I think Vegas is a scary team and people don't look at it is they have depth. They had 11 players with points. That's either a goal and an assist. It ended up being 6 goals, but they played absolutely phenomenal team effort. They blocked 23 shots. Again, they're the best blocking team in the league. They have 3 in the top 7. 1 and 2 are on the Knights as well in block shots for the league. I don't like that the Oilers out hit us by damn near double. It was close to being double. It was 46-27. That's going to wear on them if the Knights can't answer back on hitting and slow their hitting production down a little bit more. I'm worried about that. But it came out to exactly what we thought. McDavid, Draisaitl, they had 9 shots collectively. And it's just insane that Draisaitl scored 4 goals on 5 shots. Why? Because he's Leon Draisaitl he's the best hockey player in the league right now. go in the playoffs that are still playing. And he was good last year, but he was injured, coming off injury, so he wasn't at 100%. He's at 100% this year, and he's not going to let it just go to the wayside. He's taking every opportunity he can, and he is absolutely crushing it. But the goalie situation for both teams, I mean, the Oilers, their goalie, not too good. It's kind of some unknown names for the sports world. Let me get his name up here.
And do you think that goalie being such a liability is why the Knights win this game, even though Edmonton does shoot so much against, this Golden Knights team?
In a sense, yes. Skinner. There we go. Stuart Skinner.
Leonard?
Stuart Skinner. And he had a decent year this year. He had 29, 14, and 5. He got an above 91% save percentage, which isn't bad at all. But Laurent Brossoit is just playing at a different level right now. He only played 10 games in the regular season because they were so injury riddled. But he's now at his peak performance, in my opinion. He's been on the team for a few years now. I have never seen him play better than now. And that is a wonderful sign. And the 4 goals that he scored, that were scored on him, it was Leon Draisaitl. On the 2 of them on the power play. And going against the best power play team in the league with the best player in regular season and playoffs on the power play in Draisaitl, I'm not saying that he played bad at all. I thought he played a really good game. He had 34 was it 34 no shots on goal. Yeah, we had 30. They 27 shots and he let in 4. That's not the best save percentage. However, again, Draisaitl power play. So take 2 of those away and 2 for 27, still not great, but it's against a high scoring offense. So I really like how the Knights play. And going against Skinner, they're such a fast team. They get caught on breakaways. Like they overextend, and the Knights are really good in transition, and that's been their MO all year because they are a two-way team. And this is why I think the Knights are so dangerous, is they are a deep two-way team, and going against the best offense in the league, they showed why. And the biggest story, in my opinion, coming out of this game was how they responded to the Oilers every time they scored. And this is what makes them scary, in my opinion, going deep. And I really think the Knights can win the cup this year. They have a good chance. Ooh. If they could get past the Oilers. I lost my train of thought here. They're answering. So both of those 2 power play goals done by Draisaitl, the Knights scored within like a minute and a half or less. Mm-hmm. And it was the same guy, Ian Barbashev, one of the transfers that the Knights got at the trade deadline. So awesome for him. That's where I'm going to have to wrap it up because I have to take my dog to an appointment. So I'm going to leave you. I got to get the kid up and get the dog in the car. So
this has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino. We'll be back Monday to recap what happens in the NBA, NHL, if anything happens in the NFL as well. Also, check out my Kickstarter, Imagination Issue number 1, live on Kickstarter right now. I'll post the link in the description of this episode as well. But yeah, adios. We'll see you next time.